Very
Now,
cool. Yeah.
rounding out our day with another space adventure, or perhaps space misadventure, we have the 1990s classic Apollo 13.
Yes. Based on the true story of the Apollo 13 mission, which went horribly wrong, and the the astronauts and the folks at Mission Control had to solve several problems in order to get them back. Of course, this was the third mission to land on the moon after Apollo 11, which was Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and then Michael Collins, and then Apollo 12. Um, and but This movie, the movie, of course, is starts off with the Apollo 11 landing, where, of course, for those of you who don't know, Jim Lovell, who was the mission commander on Apollo 13, was Neil Armstrong's backup on Apollo 11. And before that, he was on Apollo 8. He was the command module pilot for that. And that was when they actually got to the moon and went around it. And then he was on 2 Gemini missions. And I actually got to, just a real quick side note, I actually got to go to a reunion for the Apollo 8 astronauts back in like the late 2000s, early 2010s. It was at the Lyndon Johnson Library at the University of Texas. And that was a pretty illuminating, discussion there. And actually, one of the things that it comes up in the movie where Fred Hayes, who's one of the Apollo 13 astronauts, he gets sick, and then Lovell mentions to Hayes that Borman was throwing up. Frank Borman, who was the mission commander on Apollo 8, he was throwing up the entire time, and they talked about that at the reunion. And Lovell was still complaining about that. He's just like, you threw it up the whole time and stank up the whole ship.
Yeah, you can't exactly crack open a window, at least not more than once.
No. But yeah, so they're watching. So the movie starts off where they're having a big party at Lovell's house in Houston, watching the Apollo 11 landing, and of course Lovell's waiting for his chance to get on there. And then at first they were Fred Hayes, and then Ken Mattingly were supposed to be on Apollo 14, but then Alan Shepard, who was originally the mission commander of Apollo 13, got an ear infection. So Lovell, Hayes, and Mattingly got bumped up to Apollo 13. And there's a funny scene in there where when Lovell tells his wife the news, and she's like, "Oh, a 13," and Lovell says, "Yeah, it comes after 12."
Yeah, I guess her woman's intuition told her that something bad was going to happen.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. But yeah. So basically, the movie is basically depicting the lead up to the mission, and then eventually going on the mission. And one of the first big setbacks that happens is one of the Apollo backup crew members ends up contracting the measles. And unfortunately, Ken Mattingly, who was the command module pilot, had never had the measles. So he didn't have an immunity, and they were worried he was going to get sick as they were, going up to the moon. So they had to pull Mattingly, and they put in Jack Swigert. Just so real quick, like Tom Hanks plays Jim Lovell. The late Bill Paxton played Fred Hayes. You had Gary Sinise played Ken Mattingly, and then Kevin Bacon plays Jack Swigert. And one of the things I will say that this is one of my favorite movies of all time. Like I was a big space program guy, big NASA guy. So this movie was kind of my entry into learning more about the space program and the Apollo missions. And finding out more about the astronauts and the mission control guys. But I will say, but the big knock I have on this is how Jack Swigert is portrayed in the movie. He's kind of portrayed as being this kind of like hotshot, real, wet behind the ears, and he's just kind of, he doesn't have much experience and all this other stuff. But in reality, he was actually a very competent pilot, and actually, there was I remember Jim Lovell actually did an interview where he mentioned that Swigert actually wrote like the malfunction procedures for like the command module. Like if there's a malfunction and they need to do like shutdowns, Swigert actually wrote that procedure. And both he and Fred Hayes said Swigert was actually who they really needed on that mission. Nothing against Ken Mattingly, but I mean Swigert was at the right place at the right time.
Right, because he actually, he knew how to do this procedure. We were talking before the show, and I said to Daniel, just because of how Kevin Bacon portrayed the character, it's like, I have seen this movie before. I saw this movie when I was in junior high, though it's been many years since I saw it.
Yeah.
And if I didn't know better, I would say that it would turn out that he was a Soviet agent who had intentionally sabotaged the ship or something, partly because it's Kevin Bacon, and he always comes off as kind of villainous to me.
Oh, yeah.
But also just like the way he was acting is like, this feels strange.
Yeah. Well, that would have made for a really good Cold War spy thriller story. It's the other, of course, you have what ends up happening on Apollo 13 is they go to stir the oxygen tanks. There's a short
tanks, and I hadn't quite realized this, were used for more than mere life support.
No, yeah, they were also used for the power, because so there was a spark and then it caused in the tanks, and it caused the explosion. And as a result, not only were they losing oxygen, but they were also losing power,
which is not a good combination when you're trying to get home.
No, it isn't. So what they had to do is they had to shut down the command module completely, and they had to move down into the lunar module. Now, that presented a whole new set of problems because the lunar module was only built for 2 people, and you had to have 3 people down there. So they had problems with the CO2 scrubbers. And then the big issue with the CO2 scrubbers? Well, the ones on the command module are round, and the ones in the lunar module are square.
Right. So, and probably my favorite scene in the movie, they're having to figure out how to jury rig the square peg to fit in the round hole, literally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And another guy I want to mention real quick, not one of the astronauts, but actually one of the mission control guys. His name was I want to say John O'Neill, I believe. In the movie, he's the guy who works with Ken Mattingly in the simulator to try to figure out the power situation. Give them just enough power to, get the command module up so that they can re-enter Earth's atmosphere. He was kind of like one of these. He was a real big guy in the mission control. He was kind of actually a bit of a legend on Apollo 12. During launch, they were having some sort of malfunction and they couldn't figure out what was going on. And John figured out and actually knew a workaround for it. And it was to flip the switch. You have to go SEC to aux. And he told that to Charles Kraft, who was one of the flight directors. And Kraft's like, "What? I have no idea what you're talking about." So they're like, "No, trust me, it'll work." And so then they tell the guys on Apollo 12 to do it, and they're like, "What the hell is that?" But Pete Conrad, the mission commander, knew what it was, and he flipped it, and it worked. So it was kind of but that story kind of became legend at NASA Mission Control, and I know about that because about 20 years ago, the History Channel did a really great documentary about those mission control guys. It was called "Failure is Not an Option," which is a line from this movie. So I'm dumping a lot of NASA trivia on all of you.
No worries. I mean, so I was never. I am weird in that I find like space itself more interesting than the people who go up there and learn about space, even though like clearly like if you're an astronaut, you're amazing.
Oh yeah.
Just definitionally, even if you never go into space, you're the best of the best of the best.
Oh yeah. Peak human specimen.
Yep.
Yeah.
I would say, like, in terms of the actual like emotional core of the movie, I liked the disdain that Tom Hanks's wife had for the media.
Yeah.
Because like they didn't like it was almost like the Jurassic World situation where something amazing, space flight, had become so routine that their ratings were way down. They weren't even showing the launch on TV.
Yeah.
And so she's like, they wouldn't watch his launch on TV, but they're here for the interview now. No, get them off my lawn.
Yeah.
And also, like, I would say that Hanks's character, like his disappointment about never getting to set foot on the moon when it was his turn, is like a core emotional weight of the movie.
Yeah.
But the problem solving scenes are a lot of fun. It wouldn't surprise me if I talked with Andy Weir, and that's what a lot of The Martian and Project Hail Mary was inspired by.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. No, yeah, yeah.
And the nice thing is that unlike like my big complaint about The Martian was that I didn't care about the politics back on Earth. They were necessary just to see so you had context of what was going on. But at the same time, it's like, I don't care. Get back to Mars. I want to see him growing potatoes with his own dung or whatever.
Yeah.
Like that problem solving was the best part of the movie.
Yeah.
Well, in this one, since everybody was on the same team, and like like the arguments were not about should we even bother sending a ship. Well, of course, in this case, they couldn't send a ship. Like the argument wasn't should we help him or not. It was how are we going to do this? Like how are we going to get that? Like we need 4 amps, we have 2 or whatever.
Yeah. How are we gonna? They're like, we're okay. Well, we got to get them back on course. Well, how are we going to do that? We can't use the computer, and we're using the engine for a spacecraft that wasn't designed. It wasn't designed to do what they were going to use it for.
Right. Like they were using the engine that was designed to land on the moon and then get off of the moon again. Right.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. It was not designed for sustained burns to propel you through space.
Right. Yeah.
I'll also say that, especially for 95.
Yeah.
The special effects in this are amazing. The zero-G effects are extremely convincing.
Oh yeah. Well, they took them up on the Vomit Comet.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they were actually having like moments of weightlessness to simulate it. Yeah. I was wondering what kind of movie magic they were using.
Yeah.
Also, I liked some of the details, like when the ship exploded. And at first I thought this was kind of strange that they were like orbited by a cloud of debris. And then I realized, well, it's space, and unless as fast as they're moving, they're not like, where are they going to fall to? They're not going to go back to Earth. They're not going to crash into the moon if they're not crashing into the moon,
right?
Because they're all just moving along on the same momentum.
Yeah.
So and just like the shots are well done. Who directed this one again?
Ron Howard.
I've said not nice things about Ron Howard before, but I think I need to rescind them at least for this movie.
No. This is his best movie, in my opinion.
Yeah. Like a lot of the times his movies can seem a bit pedestrian, but this one is definitely not.
No, it's not. No. Yeah. No. Yeah.
Yep. So like I'm not as big of a NASA buff as Daniel is, but um, the fact that I'm not kind of just demonstrates that this movie has a lot for you, even if you don't know the behind the scenes details.
Yeah. And,
Also, I'm sorry, Mr. Bacon. I know that you're connected with everybody, so you can't possibly be evil, but you
well,
just always come off that way. Like it actually kind of ruined. Okay, no, to be fair, R.I.P.D.'s script and casting ruined R.I.P.D.
yeah, it
But the
did.
fact that it was Kevin Bacon and the way he was acting made it very clear very early on that he was going to be the bad guy.
Well, yeah, yeah. Well, he did play. He was X-Men First Class. Shaw on.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, like
Yeah,
dude just has a villain face. I'm sorry.
yeah, he does. Yeah. Yeah, but he's not a villain in this movie. Um,
Maybe in the sequel, Apollo 14, he'll turn to the dark side.
oh yeah, maybe. But yeah, but this movie, yeah, this, like I said, this movie is one of my favorites. Can't recommend it enough. Currently on Netflix.
Yep. And yeah, it was fun to revisit after not seeing it for 20 plus years.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think we've said all we need to say for tonight.
Indeed, we have.